All right, ladies, gentlemen, gamers, everybody else. Welcome back. It's a nice, lovely Sunday evening, Sunday night, rather. I'm sad as fuck, and I had some ideas in my mind that I wanted to talk about. Now, the image here kind of relates to what we're going to talk about. If you can guess it, good job. If not, I don't blame you. This is a really crappy image, as you could see from the right-hand side. I really didn't look hard for this one. However, there's kind of two topics that was in my mind that I want to talk about today. The first one is kind of, as always, the world and how it looks and everything. Oh. Thank you. Anyway, my family's annoying me, but they gave me grapes, so that's cool. But anyway, there's kind of two little mini topics I want to talk about. Not really mini, but the first one is the state of the world, as always, usually, and just what's going on and kind of how I view it, or how I've been viewing it, how it's changed, I guess, since last time, or just overall. And the second topic is basically just a change or a shift from, I guess people would call it a certain meta of what's being posted online by content creators. So, to stick to the first topic, because you know us, we're going to get off track, and by us I mean me, the state of the world is pretty much fucked, right? Now, obviously, there's been worse times in history. There's been times where we've had bubonic plagues. There's been times where people have been tortured in various ways. We've had crusades. We've had a lot of, bad stuff. Granted, that kind of pales in comparison to what's kind of happened in the last 200 years in our history in terms of actual death numbers, but in terms of quality of life, it's definitely been worse in some areas, especially in the olden times. But that doesn't excuse what's going on now. So there's a constant woe and worry in my head, right? That as time goes on, things are getting worse, and I think they are. Things are getting better in some respects, for some people, for a subset of people, the rich, but things are getting worse for the majority or rest of us. Now, I don't know if that has to do with just the media's portrayal of it, because obviously not one person can really judge or base their experiences and say that's the whole. That's not possible. Like, if things are going good for me, I can't say things are going good in the world. If things are going really badly for me, like let's say, my girlfriend died, as if I had one, and then I lost my house because it burned down. God, I hope not. Or at least I hope I go with it. And then, I basically lose an arm and a leg in a car accident. I'm going to think, wow, the world really fucking sucks. I hate this shit. The world is terrible. That's not indicative of how it really is. There's no way to really tell how it really is, but we can kind of get a good gist, right? If you keep an open eye and an open ear to the general stuff that's happening all around you, to society, to the general feelings, that's, I would say, a more accurate representation. And obviously it matters who you listen to. I'm talking about as wide an eye and as open an ear as possible. It then becomes more accurate. So my general consensus from what I've heard is the world is getting worse. We're in a very interesting time where in the past couple years, in the past, I would say 100 or so years, we've seen technological advancement at such a grand scale, we don't know the effects of it, and we're not really used to it as humans. You can see this now with how the current generations work. The old people generation, who have no clue how to fucking use a computer, granted, that's my grandparents, I brought them to the bank to make a new account one day. And they were so bad at using a computer, they didn't even know how to use the mouse and they couldn't even click things. We had to sit there for 20 minutes to guide them. Then you have the people who are even younger than me, the newer generation, the kids who are so much more attuned to technology because they're growing up with it and their minds are more malleable. So you could see just from a generational gap between the generations how things are different, right? How if you start off young with it, it's vastly different than when you're older, when you can't really adapt to it as easily or as well anymore. We have a lot of things where we've never had them over the course of our long history on this earth, and we don't know how that's going to make us. We don't know how that's going to affect us, not only physically, but mentally. I mean, physically, we already see that office life from agricultural life is already kind of fucking us. We're obese, we're fucked. Maybe that's just America, but I think the whole world is coming around to that too. but just mentally. I mean, look, we've had so many more mental issues now. Granted, you could say maybe they weren't well documented. I would say that's true, but not the full extent. I would say there was a lot less of them, even if they weren't all documented, than there is now. Now we're in an epidemic of just, mental health crises that are, in my opinion, probably getting worse. But the main thing is, the economy is getting worse, mental health's getting worse, everything's getting worse. And trust me, I'm feeling it too. I'm not exempt from this, which is why I kind of think about these things. But we have inflation going crazy. We got wars here, wars there. Our economy is essentially collapsing on itself, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. It's been as bad as it's been in 40 fucking years at this point or some shit, or even worse. All I'm hearing is bad, 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 bad. And as time goes on, it doesn't look to be getting better, and we have no real way out. I watch a guy on YouTube called, I think, Clear Value Tax. He's an Asian gentleman who's very knowledgeable and very smart, and he's basically saying the government's fucking itself. So, not only are we in a time where now we're kind of questioning, can we even live on this planet sustainably as a bigger picture sort of thing, where we're running out of core resources. Fresh water is becoming scarce. We have to desalinate the water, which then leads to salt overflow in some places and some ecosystems, destroying those, leading to less biodiversity, which could lead to so many other things for potential medicinal uses and everything like that. But again, I'm looking very broad range here. Regardless, though, we're in a time where, even for the future, right, by 50, 60, 70 and beyond, who knows what resources we're even going to be fighting over? Are we going to be fighting over clean drinking water? Are we going to be fighting over food, over, soil, over silicone, over metal? Who knows, right? But it's a thing that's now on our minds that we have to worry about. So again, as time goes on, I don't see it getting any better. And that's on the macro scale. On the micro scale, it's still not getting better. Inflation's out of control and everything like that. So this is one thing I thought. When I was listening to Clear Value Tax, I kind of thought, in one of his most recent videos, he basically said the U.S. government basically is at a point where they really can't fix what they've done. We just gotta hope to ride it out at as least bumpy the road as possible, but it's gonna be fucking bumpy, and we don't know how bumpy it's gonna be. It's no longer smooth sailing. It's we have to weather the storm, and we're praying the storm isn't that bad, but there's gonna be a storm, and it's probably gonna be bad. So that's basically made me think, in the last 200 years, right? Or in the last, even just couple tens of years, we've had people who are put in power, who are borrowing money from God knows where, from here and there and everything like that, which is causing inflation. Now, I'm not going to say I'm here being an economist. I'm just going off what I hear and what I think I know. I'm not saying this is definitive of what's actually true, but as far as I know it. The government and the people in charge are doing basically stupidness that they've done for years and could have gotten away for a long time, because they were essentially pushing the problem back. How the fuck do we put people in power that don't solve issues and just push the problem back? The obvious answer is, we're stupid. We're people at the end of the day. We make mistakes, and, I feel like some of those mistakes might really cost us eventually, and it looks like we're getting to that. But also, we really don't know what the fuck we're doing. I like to hold myself personally to certain standards where if I don't do this, I think I'm wrong. And I'll relate this to my job. I have very simple jobs. I've had very easy, simple jobs. I've stressed like crazy over them, maybe because I have mental problems, which is probably true, but also because I think if I make one mistake, I should be fired, they will find someone new, they will find someone better, no mistakes are allowed. I think I don't know what the fuck I'm doing despite being in mostly simple, easy jobs. I still feel that. I'm in a mailroom job, which essentially is very easy, but if I make one mistake, I kind of question myself, right? What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Fuck. You got people at the highest level of the U.S. fucking government running our economy, ruining it, who it looks like don't know what the fuck they're fucking doing. And not only are they getting rich off of it and they're, benefiting because they're in a high-paying job that isn't really helping everyone else but mostly themselves and their upper echelon of people, it's fucking everyone else. It really does honestly look like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Because if everything else is getting so bad, right? If there's so much wealth in the world and so much wealth is being generated by a select few number of people, how do we not have a system where there's more wealth than ever, but there's such a big divide. There's the biggest divide we've seen, and so many more people are suffering. It's just backwards to me. It really shows, just generally as people, even if something looks professional, I'm not saying everything's like this, but for the most part, I'm basically noticing we really have no clue what the fuck we're doing. We might think some things are right, but who's to say what's right and wrong? But if we argue that, then we really don't know what we're talking about, and the argument will go nowhere. But in general, oh my goodness, Kalinita, saying goodnight to my grandfather. We really don't know what the fuck we're doing. Just as people in general, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. Our lives are too short, and we're too stupid as a people. Not all of us, but for the general part, most of us. We got no clue what we're doing. We're trying, some of us, to do things right, but most of us are just too greedy and too simple-minded to really look at the bigger picture and kind of help each other. And again, I'm not no exception. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I got my own issues. Everyone got their own issues, but those issues, I try and keep my issues to myself and have them not really affect anyone else besides my inner circle. And to the most part with that, I just complain. I don't hurt no one, I hope, at least physically. I hope. And that's just how I believe. I don't know. I'm getting a more and more negative outlook as time goes on. But anyway, that's the first topic. Now for the next topic, the second topic. Let's go to a nice little cute picture here. Let's go to a cute little capybara, as usual. So the second topic, more of the metas of what I've seen, right? So back in the day, me and Auntie often say we were born kind of late, kind of early for a lot of things. We weren't born in a good time. Now, we kind of use that as an excuse just because we're lazy fucks and we're not like the rich people. Well, not rich people. Successful people who made it, who actually broke their fucking backs and put their, sweat and tears into it. Or got lucky, because a lot of them did get lucky, I would say. Or a mix of both. We just kind of use that as an excuse, but I do feel like there's some validity in it. I feel like back then, when I was younger and people were older, the people who were older when I was young were able to get away making it big and doing the videos I do now and getting famous off of them. Essentially what I'm saying is a lot less was expected back then, and you were able to do a lot less and get a lot more out of it. It was the era of gameplay commentaries. Gameplay commentaries are essentially fucking done. You gotta add bells and whistles to it now. There has to be way better videos, more reasons to watch, this, and that, right? All this stuff. So, essentially, what happens now is it shifted from that meta to then more, bells and whistles, more geared towards the viewer content, more structured content, more, how do I say this, more developed content. Like, okay, we have high production value, edited videos about a topic, going in depth in it, researching it, explaining it, stuff like that. I honestly think now we're sort of going into this new meta, and I've seen it more and more, and it's very interesting to me. It's this meta of reactions. We're getting a lot lazier now, and this is prompted by Asmongold, as well as just, again, my general ear to the ground in society, and in Twitch, and everything. People have now been moving from, okay, we're not going to really do gameplay, we're not going to be entertaining with our gameplay. Some people still are, again, it's not gone, we're not gone from this. But I feel like either a new meta is emerging that's going to go alongside with the current one, or we're going to transition to this new one where this new one is going to be the majority, and it's going to be reactions. Now people are legit just reacting to shit. On TikTok, I see these people who sit there. There's legit a guy, I'm not going to say his name, mostly because I don't remember it. Also, I don't want to send hate towards anyone, as if I have a fan base, to even do that. This guy legit sits in his chair, doesn't speak a word. He really doesn't, say almost anything at all. But he sits there. Oh, actually, thank you. He doesn't say a word. Kalinita. He sits there, and I have to say goodnight to my other grandparent. He sits there, he says nothing. He looks at anime. And he just watches it and makes facial reactions of, surprise and, weird stuff and gross stuff. He just makes facial reactions, doesn't say anything, and he gets views. There's other people who, again, just react. Their reactions are sometimes obviously overblown. Sometimes their reactions are just barely anything there. Sometimes they don't talk. Sometimes they do. But there's so many people reacting on. I don't know what it is about human psychology that makes us want to see someone watch something else, right? It was the constant argument people had against video games, with sports at least, that I remember at least. Oh, why would you play NBA 2K when you could just go outside and play basketball? Now people are kind of realizing, yeah, that's still an argument, but there's kind of arguments against it. Like, okay, what if you're not good at basketball? Okay, well then get good. Okay, what if you have problems? Okay, well, what if I like the certain style of just playing the video game of basketball on 2K? I like the way it feels. It's different. I could play these players. It gives you different feelings from actually playing basketball, but it also coincides of like, oh, you kind of feel like you're playing basketball, but it's different, right? There's arguments that could be made. I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying kind of what I think of it, but it's gone further than that. It's definitely gone further of just like, oh, video games are stupid because why don't you just play it? Now people understanding there's arguments kind of against that. So it kind of goes into now the reacting thing. Why would you watch people react? I think just as a society in general, we're losing identity. We're losing identity and we're losing just personality. We're becoming more disconnected, right? Just because it's the digital age, we're staying inside more, we have the computer screen, we're not making actual real world connections. And, that's another big issue I struggle with, and the older people very much struggle with. People are lonely. So people are connecting to other people in a one-sided way, watching them react to things, and it feels like kind of a group activity, or at least you're not alone. That's one thing I think is kind of relevant about the reactions. But also, too, it's just you like when people react to things. There's a difference from watching a show and then seeing a real person's reaction to it. Obviously, again, most of them are overblown. Most of them are not real, or at least entirely genuine. But in general, I don't know what it is. I can't even pin it down. These are just some of my ideas, but I feel like we're really honestly going into a reaction meta right now. I don't know why. I've listed some reasons, but I'm very curious to see it go further. I mean, I've done my fair share of little reactions here and there too. I'm not a full-blown reaction channel, although that is something me and my cohorts are discussing, potentially. But then we have to get a face cam, and then, that's all other bullshit in the background. Basically, it's interesting. I really do think we're going into reaction meta. But that's basically it. It's Sunday night. I'm fucking sad as hell. I don't want to go to work. I hate my job. I hate my life. I hate everything. And that's essentially it for now. I hope you enjoyed my little rambling, and I'll be back who knows when. I'm gonna go cry before I go to work tomorrow. Eee!